What is going on, YouTube? I am Lamont with Fascinating Graveyard. Today I am in Beckley, West Virginia. We're going to talk about the murder of Cynthia Miller. This was a murder that went unsolved for almost 40 years. Currently I'm walking right in the front of Park Middle School. Before it was called Park Junior High School, and Cynthia Miller had been hired right out of school. She had just graduated from Concord College. She was hired to be the math teacher here at Park Middle School. And on August 26, 1981, the school had a faculty meeting where the teachers and everybody would come into school to prepare their classrooms for the school year. The school was set to start on August 30th of 1981. So she came here, prepared her classroom. Also, she had a wedding to prepare for. She was set to be married on August 27th, 1981, and sadly, she would not live to see either of those days. Later on that evening, Cynthia Miller arrives back at her home that she shared with her fiance, Gary O'Neill. She gets ready to fill out her Avon order sheets. She does that on the side. So as she's doing that, her fiance, Gary, goes to her father's house over in the next county just to talk about, the big day. And he calls home to see how she's doing, just to check up on her. And nobody answers the phone. So he didn't think anything of it. Maybe she stepped outside. He calls her again. Still, there's no answer. He's starting to get very worried and concerned. She hasn't answered the phone all evening. So Gary leaves his father's home and drives over to Beckley, opens the door, and he sees the woman that he is supposed to be spending the rest of his life with on the floor, already dead from 4 gunshots with a .25 caliber weapon. She had been shot in the head and the shoulders. Immediately he calls 911. They get the call at around 12:40 a.m. August 27th, 1981. And right in front of you would be the home. Now, coincidentally enough, if you look closely, you can see that there is a basement in the home. Cynthia, who I believe she inherited this house from either, I believe, her grandmother. There is a basement. They did rent the basement out to somebody. It's right there. That's where the murder occurred. After the detectives arrive and start processing the crime scene, Gary O'Neill immediately is taken to the Beckley Police Department for an interview. Now, like a lot of these stories where a woman is murdered, automatically the boyfriend or the husband is the prime suspect, of course. It's just in the rule book 101. So they are talking to him and they said, well, did Cynthia have any enemies? Did Cynthia have anybody that did not like her? Where were you? Did you have any enemies? And they're asking him about potential enemies on his part because he was a police officer in a nearby town about 20 minutes away from Beckley called Leicester. So he says that apparently in his own mind, he doesn't have any real enemies, nobody that has any kind of vendetta against him. They asked him about that day. Well, where were you that day? What were you doing? So he told them about him going to his father's home, and his father, of course, confirms that he was at his house. So Gary has an airtight alibi. However, he did mention, and I thought this part of the story was kind of odd. He said that he had stopped by the house of a man named Earl James Robbins. And he had stopped there because Robbins had some unpaid parking ticket. Now, he stopped at his house and whatever the words were exchanged, and he left. the police go to Robin's house to interview him, and he tells them, Officer O'Neill came to my house about an unpaid parking ticket. Words were exchanged, and I said I would take care of it. I come out of my house, and I see Gary talking to his girlfriend outside of their house. Now, that immediately tells me that Robbins lived on the same street as Gary and Cynthia did. So they're looking at this guy as a suspect, and they take him down to the station to do a polygraph test. Now, I tried to find as much information as I could about this polygraph test and what the, how it ended, and I couldn't find anything. So the police did suspect him of committing this crime, but of course they had no evidence. Now, if you fast forward many, many years later, there was a letter that was written by a California inmate who implicated that Earl had confessed to him about murdering a girl back in West Virginia in the 80s. However, before they were able to interview this inmate further, I believe he died in prison. So, police feel that Robbins is their suspect. He is in prison in California, serving a life sentence for a rape and assault that he committed back in, I believe, 2004 or 2005. And then in October of last year, I believe October 13th, 2020, police announced that they did have enough evidence to arrest Earl James Robbins for the murder of Cynthia Miller. Now, currently, he is incarcerated, of course, in California. So I don't know how the extradition is going to work. I guess they're going to wait and see, but he ain't going anywhere. So the case is up in the air right now, but from what I read, it seems to me that scumbag is responsible for her murder. He was also indicted on the kidnap, assault, and rape of a 13-year-old girl back in 1980. This guy is a total piece of work, a total scumbag, to say the least. Now, he is serving that life sentence, but there is a possibility of parole. However, I'm pretty sure West Virginia wants to get their hands on him. And here is the grave of Cynthia Jane Miller. Killed the day before her wedding. Her fiance, Gary O'Neill, died a few years back from cancer. And shortly after her murder, her mother passed away, and I believe the father died some years ago, never getting resolution to their daughter's murder. Very, very sad case. Hopefully they have enough evidence to convict them, and hopefully justice will be done for this young woman. Okay, guys, I'm Lamont. Fascinating Graveyard. Please subscribe if you have not already. Hit that notification bell. I do vlogs like this from time to time on this channel. Guys, I will catch up with you later. I gotta hit the next location. God bless y'all. Peace.